My wife was sued and I'm starting to resent her. My wife used LinkedIn to find her former ex-best friend. She ended up creating a realistic-looking fake LinkedIn profile with a vague occupation of recruiter. My wife ended up sending this ex-best friend, Laura, a few messages pretending to be a recruiter in her line of work. Laura finally responded thinking that this recruiter was real. My wife wanted her phone number, but Laura gave her a personal email address instead. My wife created a second fake LinkedIn profile and started to send messages to people with similar titles as Laura at her company. These messages said derogatory things about Laura, a mixture of truthful things but embarrassing and just fabricated crap to make Laura look bad. Her manager got one of these messages that claimed that Laura was a heavy substance user and neglects her children. Laura's manager talked to her about these messages and he felt like the messages were bizarre and seemed like someone was trying to troll or harass Laura. Well, Laura's team had her back and helped her save these messages. Not only that, but Laura requested that she be substance tested anyway and have CPS called to provide further evidence that she was clean. Several of her co-workers, including her manager, testified on Laura's behalf. Using the personal email address she got from the fake recruiter profile, she was able to find a few social media platforms Laura was on and was able to figure out her husband's name. She did some more internet sleuthing and found Laura's husband on Facebook. Laura's husband didn't have much on his Facebook profile, but you could see his business email address on it. My wife sent him an email claiming that Laura was cheating on him. The husband confronted Laura about this email, and Laura encouraged him to keep responding to this person and save the messages, as well as to start asking specific questions about this supposed affair. My wife thought she was being clever and ended up telling the husband that Laura was cheating on him during the work week. She even gave him specific dates. What she didn't realize was Laura had something turned on in Google Maps where it keeps years' worth of historical GPS data. Some of the dates my wife gave him also happened to be days where they both worked from home together. She also ended up giving him dates during a time they were on vacation together. My wife was sued and I'm starting to resent her. Laura had her husband keep responding as much as possible to my wife and to back up all correspondence. My wife was able to find out when and where the baby shower was going to be. One of Laura's friends had created a public registry for her and had the invitation online. My wife decided to show up unannounced. She did not make herself known immediately. Instead, she looked for patrons that were entering and exiting the rented-out room. She was able to get the attention of a few guests that had never met her and tried to gossip about Laura. My wife was telling people that Laura didn't actually know who the father was, among other things. This was at an event where her husband was at as well. The word got back around to Laura and she spotted my wife and apparently immediately put together all the pieces of what happened. My wife was able to find phone numbers, social media accounts, and email for other people in Laura's circle and sent them messages about Laura on multiple occasions. All the messages were trying to paint Laura in an extremely derogatory light. My wife didn't think to mask her IP address, so it was pretty easy to find out that all of these made-up messages came from the same IP address, ours. Many of Laura's friends and family testified on her behalf. Laura had everyone saved as much digital evidence as possible, and it was a lot. Laura and her husband hired a lawyer and decided to sue to my wife. They had ample evidence against her. All the saved messages, close friends, and even her manager spoke on her behalf. She showed that she went to see a therapist once all the harassment started because she was depressed and anxious. She showed that she and her husband went to counseling after the accusations of her cheating. She even went above and beyond and had more substance tests done to show she was clean. And my wife's accusations were 100% false, and even had a paternity test done to show that my wife was again wrong and chose to lie. I honestly felt awful for Laura. There were lots of tears on her end. You could tell how much emotional stress she had gone through. She said that being pregnant during the majority of this was absolutely horrific and was worried the stress and anxiety would somehow hurt her baby. She was pained that her one and only baby shower was ruined by my wife, and that was something that could never be truly repaid or made up for. And that my wife's harassment continued even after Laura gave birth to her newest child and was trying to manage a newborn child. My coworker's hygiene is concerning me. Can I pretty please get sincere, respectful, educated responses only? I legit am trying to find a solution for this problem. If there is a better group for this, please direct me. I feel this belong in this group because it is a socially fragile situation, and if I word things wrong, I can do undoable damage. Note before anybody says so, I have already, and I continue to tell my supervisor, and my supervisor then continues to tell the family, but it isn't a long-lasting solution. In the end, it's up to the young man and his family. But I also feel responsible when he is out in public with me. Generally speaking, I'm an aide. I really do care for my people. I'm just extremely flustered because more times out of many, I feel like I'm failing my people. I have one adult I watch over who is fully physically able, but does have some learning disabilities. So it makes communication scarce and I have to really probe with questions, but not too much because nobody likes that. Like I'm not trying to be annoying or fluster them either. But anyway, he shows up 8/10 times, filthy, dirty clothes and reeking of body odor. It is hard to ignore, nor do I want to ignore it. I want it to be dealt with because he deserves to be clean. And in this type of society with him being around community, it's imperative he be at least average level clean. I tell the parents all the time, but to no avail. Sometimes he shows up clean. Other times it seems like he hasn't showered or changed his shirt in days. Being ND myself and having my own quarrels with showering, I totally get that it can be a sensory nightmare. But that is why I have dry shampoo. I have body sprays. I wash clothes and wipes on days where I'm just noping out of existence. This information seems too personal to share though, and like it will go in overhead for most part. Anybody else have experience with this kind of work situation? Is there a nice way I can express my concern directly to my people so they know I care and I'm not judging them? You know, without being the jerk. His hygiene is really important to me because it's how the outside world perceives us. Example, me showing up with my hair disarrayed is probably not going to gather me the general respect of just people not bumping into me in sidewalks. If I get lost, people may not answer. If I ask for directions, etc. Versus if I look more put together and smell good. It really does shape how people treat us, whether I agrees with it or not. Partly my job is to give him the tools to help him better prepare him for the transition into adulthood within our neurotypical society. I want him to have a good life. How can I help and not be the jerk?
My weird sister won't stop flirting with my girlfriend. Growing up, my sister Haley was always very open and flirty. She would always tell my family that she was attracted to everyone. We all supported her, and no one thought anything different of her because she was still family. She and I always had such a close relationship, but it all changed once we got into high school. Whenever I was interested in a girl, she would often flirt with them. It didn't matter if she didn't know them, she continued regardless. Not only that, but Haley would flirt with just about anyone I was friends with, even those who were in relationships. I could be in my room talking or playing video games with my guy friends, and she would come in without knocking just to speak to them. It was a very uncomfortable experience for me since she was the reason I was losing my friends. I could never tell her to stop with her behavior because my parents would always accuse me of being homophobic towards her, which is untrue. I thought I would lose my mind if I stayed in the house, but eventually, Haley managed to move out before I did. Her leaving the house was the best thing ever because now I could open my heart and be comfortable dating someone I liked without her budging in. I met my girlfriend 7 months ago during a mutual friend's party, and we quickly hit it off. We complimented each other right away, and I knew I was lucky to be with such an amazing woman. One thing to note about her though is that she is timid, so I am protective of her when it comes to people making her uncomfortable. I wanted her to never feel uncomfortable with me, and I was very serious about being with her, and I wanted her to know that. I wished for her to meet my parents, so we scheduled a quick dinner at a restaurant just to introduce her. Without telling me, my parents invited Haley to the restaurant, and I didn't know until I saw her walk in. From the moment she arrived, she immediately started flirting with Laura. She would compliment her body, clothing, and facial features and even try to get her number right in front of me. My parents would laugh it off every time, saying, "That's just who she is," but I could clearly see Layla was getting uncomfortable. I immediately excused us and took her home, where I spent the rest of the night making sure she was okay. I was so angry at my family for excusing Haley's flirting that I didn't even want to see them, so I stayed with Layla, where I'd been for the past few days. My parents and Haley have been blowing up my phone, telling me how disrespectful it is for me to walk out of the restaurant and how my sister didn't do anything wrong. They kept calling me all sorts of names, making me wonder if I was in the wrong. So, was it wrong of me to leave that restaurant because of my sister flirting with my girlfriend? My weird sister won't stop flirting with my girlfriend. Last Friday night, I messaged my mom and dad to let them know I wouldn't be talking with them unless Layla was given an apology. Until this point, Haley never tried to apologize or take responsibility for her actions, and I got tired of it. I let them know I would be stopping by on Saturday to pick up some of my stuff as my girlfriend, and I decided to live together for the time being. On Saturday morning, Layla, her dad, and I went to my parents' house, where we were stopped by Haley, who was sitting on the porch. She told me she wanted to talk to me alone, so I let my girlfriend and her dad go inside until Haley finished telling me what she had to say. She started off by saying that she was sorry for flirting with my friends and Layla. She knows that she flirts with everyone I know and surround myself with. She told me that the reason she does this is not because of her sexuality, but it's because she has feelings for me. She always had feelings for me since high school, and seeing me and Layla just made her angry. She said she mainly flirted with all my friends because she wanted them to divert their attention from me due to jealousy. She hated anyone else being near me and would sometimes stalk me just to know who I was with. According to her, this is also why she moved out so quickly, because she wanted to have a place to herself before we made it official. When she told me this, I just walked out, blocked her on everything, and promised never to let her in my life. I don't even know how to feel anymore. I am disgusted that my own sister had this dark fantasy about me. I don't know how to even move on with my life because of what I found out. Overthinking has made me realize why she wanted to have a sleepover when I was in high school, and how I would catch her trying to sneak into my bed while I was sleeping. She would say it was because she wanted to talk, but I realize now if I ever had said yes, she would have done something to me. I haven't even told Layla or her dad yet, and I don't know if I will. I do not know if my parents know, but even thinking about it hurts my head. This is so much worse than I thought. How do I even move on from this anymore?
I caught my boyfriend HTing my daughter. TW, mention of abuse. I have a 5-year-old daughter from a hookup in college. I struggled with being a single mom for a couple of years before I met my current boyfriend Dylan. We hit it off instantly, shared the same interests, and he always treated me with respect. Soon into our relationship, I introduced Dylan to my daughter and he always treated her nicely. I thought he was the man of my dreams, until recently. 2 nights ago I came home from a long shift at work. I saw that my daughter was getting ready for bed, and while wishing her a good night, I noticed that she had a bruise on her upper arm. I immediately asked her what happened, and my boyfriend, who was also in the room with us, jumped in saying that she had fallen from her chair. I found it suspicious cause my little girl did fall before, but she has never been bruised like that. Not to mention he didn't even give her a chance to speak. I tucked her in that night, noting to myself to look at her more carefully next time. The next day, I picked her up from school and noticed she had bruises around her wrists as if someone had grabbed her hard. I grabbed her and gently asked what happened and if it was related to the bruises she had. She hesitated and had tears forming in her eyes, then explained that she didn't mean to make Dylan mad. I wanted nothing more than to teach him a lesson, but she was my priority at the moment. It was a good thing that I had cameras installed in my house because once I checked, I wanted to punch him. On the day of the first bruise, she had dropped her cup and spilled her juice on the floor. He proceeded to yell at her and hit her, calling her stupid. Not only that, but he forced her to clean it up, saying he was gonna hurt her worse if she didn't. Then the morning of the second bruise, he grabbed her wrists and screamed at her that he wasn't going to be late cause of her all because she couldn't find her sweater. I was seething at this point. I wanted to beat him, I wanted to unalive him. After my daughter finished lunch, I told her to pack essentials and some stuffed animals. I proceeded to text a family member and asked if I could stay and explain the situation, which is where I have been living ever since. I left a note at my home and said he was never going to go near me or my daughter ever again, and how I knew what really happened to her. I got in contact with my lawyer to report what had happened, because what kind of mother would I be if I didn't fight for my daughter's justice? I feel like such a horrible mother, that I let my child down and got her hurt. I was the one who brought him home and didn't see the signs sooner. Am I a bad mother for not knowing sooner? I broke up with my selfish boyfriend because he wanted to open our relationship. My boyfriend and I have been dating for 8 years. We moved together during our first year of dating and I couldn't have been any happier. We both agreed that at the age of 30, he would propose to me and had a plan to spend the rest of our lives together. Recently last night, while we were eating dinner, my boyfriend told me he wanted to talk about something. He started by saying he loved me and that I was perfect to him. While telling me this, he started acting very nervous, which made me suspicious of what he was going to say next. A small part of me thought he was going to propose. Instead, he said that he was polyamorous. That shocked me a lot. I have nothing against the polyamorous community, but I found it a little suspicious that after 8 years of dating, he only discovered this about himself now. He said this is who he is now and he expects me to support him while our relationship is open. I told him I still am monogamous. I don't see myself being in a relationship where it is not just me and him. From this comment, my boyfriend accused me of being non-supportive and ignorant for not opening the relationship for him. I don't see why I had to open the relationship because he wanted to. My feelings mattered as well. I then asked him if there was anyone else who encouraged him to want us to open the relationship. At first, he tried to deny it and said he only wanted me, but once I pressed further I found out that at his job, multiple polyamorous women wanted to have this type of relationship with him. He said he never did anything with them and that I shouldn't worry about it. I find it incredible how he said not to worry about it, but here he goes demanding if we could open our relationship just so he could be intimate and have relationships with other women. My final question to him was, if I did allow the relationship to be opened, can another man be in our lives and satisfy me? If he could have relationships, could I have the same thing? He dared to say that it is considered cheating if I ever did this. I got angry and demanded to know why it was considered cheating for me, but for him, he was just exploring his options and that it was who he was. He told me that he was the polyamorous one. He had a reason why he wanted to do this, and for him, it wouldn't be considered cheating. On the other hand, the fact that the only reason I would allow the relationship to be opened was because I wanted to be with other men, so it was cheating. I couldn't believe it. I didn't know what to say, so I finished dinner in silence. That night I chose to sleep in the guest room and have been avoiding him ever since. I tried to leave the house the next day to go to my parents' house, but he blocked the door and demanded I talk to him. He screamed that I was being a bitch for not abiding by his request. As his partner, I was supposed to satisfy his needs. All I said to him was that I couldn't be with someone like him. I wanted to leave him. He then started crying and said he still loved me and how could I do this to him. I started getting uncomfortable, so I walked around him, so I left the house. Once I opened the door, I heard him say, "No wonder your ex cheated on you. You don't know how to have fun. You're so boring. I should have cheated on you with Bella when I had the chance. I got so heated that I just walked up to him, slapped him, and drove to my parents' house where I proceeded to cry my heart out. He knew that my ex was abusive towards me, and the fact that he tried to use this against me made me disgusted. I can't believe I was ever with this man. I wish I never met him. I don't even know what to do anymore. Any advice on how to move in with my life?